Out online and Dick and I here in person. So let's get started with this month's meeting. Thank you everyone for coming. Looks like we have all the usual faces. So did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda? Is there any questions, comments, concerns?
No concern.
Dick, I'm only going to look at you today.
Okay. You lucky devil.
Yeah, lucky you. That's why I'm online. Just kidding. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, looking for a motion then.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the agenda.
And I'll second it.
Todd second, Dick did the first. So Todd, would you start us on a vote?
Yep, Spriggs, aye.
Dick?
Saunders, aye.
Dinsmore, aye. Okay. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes for last month. Did everyone have a chance to look through those, and are there any questions on those?
Yep, I reviewed those, and I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from last month.
And I'll make a second.
Okay, Dick second, and Todd did the first. Dick, would you start us on the vote then?
Saunders, aye.
Todd?
Spriggs, aye.
And Dinsmore, aye. Okay. Hey, if this is going to go this fast, this will be quick. Item number 3 is new business. We'll turn the time over to Rick for the draft of the IFFP.
Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me, we brought this up briefly last month, and really this is just to get your mind thinking towards what will be the upcoming impact fee study and ultimately the impact fee adjustments, which due to pricing, I fully expect the fees will go up. So like I say, we talked about this briefly last month. This body approved or recommended to the council to approve the capital facilities plan, which includes both projects for new growth as well as maintenance. The majority of them are for new growth that are in that plan. But basically, the impact facility plan pulls out those just associated with new growth that would qualify for reimbursement or use of impact fee funds to fund those projects. So I'm not sure if you've been able to read. This is shorter. It's only like, what, 15 pages or something? And there's pictures, so it makes it a little easier. But I just wanted to, and we don't really, there's no action on this tonight. We'll bring this back for formal action when we do the actual impact fee study and do them probably simultaneously together like we did, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. So just, again, this lays, the capital facilities plan lays the foundation for this, and this is the main input to the impact fee study. And probably just rehearse a little bit of, I think you guys have been through this before, but just a quick rehearsal on impact fees. You can use it for infrastructure to support new growth. You can't use it for maintenance and those kind of things, so you can't use it to replace poles that are rotting or falling down or stuff like that. We're historically and continue to be pretty conservative what we put in here. It's basically substations, transmission line extensions to serve those substations, and then the major or the main feeders from the sub to tie into the existing distribution system. New development as it comes in builds the system within those developments. But so this would extend from the new substations to those developments in the existing system. And so there's in here references the Utah ordinance or law of how, what impact fees can and can't do, how they can be used. It can include construction costs, acquiring of land, materials, basically the engineering, surveying, anything associated with getting those facilities going. And if you do choose to bond, the interest payments are qualify as well. That can be as part of that impact fee. And so the rest, this next section here just kind of gives a little, the audience for this document isn't necessarily the power board or even city council, it's more our customers, so they can have an understanding of what the impact fee represents and how it's used and what it is and what it isn't. So it just talks about basically how power gets from the generators to their homes. And in our system, we have basically two voltages, 69 kV or 69,000 volts for our transmission, and basically 12,470 or 12,470 volts for our distribution. And then, of course, we step down from there to the 120, 240 for your homes. A lot of this information, again, is just taken from the capital facilities plan. See, that one's population. This one's basically the exact same table that's in the capital facilities plan. Just demonstrates that we're growing. Talks about within the next 10 years, the estimate is we'd grow about 32 megawatts. So we're currently, until at least this Sunday or Monday, our peak has been 52.5 megawatts. I suspect we're going to be in the mid to upper 50s on those days if the temperatures come in as currently being predicted. So it's not quite doubling in 10 years, but probably 75% more. And again, if you remember in the capital facilities plan, that's based on the various subdivisions, assigning a load to those subdivisions, which also gives a location, and we identify what's needed. From there, you can't, in the impact fee standards or requirements, they reference a level of service. So you can't all of a sudden, if we hadn't traditionally designed around the loss of a substation transformer, that we'd have enough capacity in the rest of the system, you couldn't just arbitrarily start doing that and put that all on the new growth. And so these are the basic parameters, and they've been the same for long before I was the director. You know, we need to keep transformers below their ratings. Seems basic, but and then what I referenced before, we need to be able to survive an N-1 contingency during peak load conditions, such as the loss of a transmission line segment, a substation transformer, a main feeder out of a sub, that we'd be able to switch the loads around to continue service even though we had one of those elements out. So that's referred to as an N-1, and that you're still able to survive. That the distribution circuit loading stays at 90% or less. The voltage levels, basically up to the transformers feeding the customers, between 95 to 105% of nominal voltage. And that we're able to, again, transfer loads around. So those are the basic criteria when they did the study. And that's how they come up with the, oh shoot, I'm not sharing my screen, I apologize. Should have known, I was on a conference call this week.
Yeah, I'm following on my pad. I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking on the.
Sorry. There we go. Apologize for that. So I lost my train of thought.
You're talking about the primary circuit voltage between 95 and 105.
Yeah, so again, these are the basic criterias that, when they do this study, they keep system loading, voltage levels between those parameters. And that's what we refer to as our level of service. And so this is their current projections. We're at 23, roughly 52.5. Again, roughly 55 megawatts supposedly this year. My suspicion is we'll probably surpass that. Some years are going to be higher, some are going to be lower. Again, we're highly dependent on temperatures extremes. And so they're somewhere around 80 megawatts in just under 10 years is where they suspect we might be. It talks about that the system was modeled in a computer. They're very, as long as you give them accurate information, the models are very, very accurate and predict system performance very well. The projections in the capital facilities plan carrying over to this, they went out 10 years. Obviously, the near-term years are more accurate than 10 years from now. That's why we update this study typically 3 to 4 years in those time frames. And we monitor each year that are we following the basic trend of what we predicted. You're never going to be right, but as long as we're within some, reasonable. And so these are the, 8, 9 basic projects that if we do them, feel confident that we can serve the estimated load in that time frame. And as you can see, it's quite a bit of money, just about $11.5 million, with about 11.4 being qualified for impact fee funding. And so again, this is the input that will go into the study, and then they basically sign that they've done the study in compliance with state law, that haven't included anything that shouldn't be, and those kind of things. So I don't know if you have any specific questions, but again, this is, we've sent the PO to UFS, who's done our rate studies and previous impact fee studies. I haven't heard back from them as far as the timeline, but I'm guessing it'll be in the 3-month-ish range before we'll see that study back from them, and then we'd bring it here. So any questions, thoughts, concerns?
Andy and Mark both joined us? Oh, Councilman Coates and Mark both joined us online while you were presenting
welcome.
and stuff. So if you guys have any questions, I do have a couple. Sure. One, this was just our normal time of starting this study, right? We didn't bump it up a couple of years. It was just time to do it again, right?
No, the previous one was 2020.
Okay.
So we're in
So it's been 4
3 to 4
years since we
year.
had the last one. Do you know of any other cities that have been doing theirs and updating their impact fees right now, or?
As far as locally, I haven't heard specifically. Again, they're beyond their own cycles and different things, but I do know it's an ongoing with various utilities. But right now, when we did the previous study, we were one of the lowest. Well, I think we were the lowest in the area. So I think we'll be favorable or competitive or whatever, however you want to say it, with the other utilities in the area.
Well, we've got a lot of growth, and that's just
Yeah.
one of the things that we've got to be able to provide that infrastructure, so.
And I guess I might add that the main projects are the Grapevine substation and the 2 transmission line segments that will tie that into the existing system. Those are, and most of these others are like the Circuit 801 is extending from that substation to the existing distribution system New Circuit 803 is the same way. So most of this, I'd say 80% is to integrate that new substation into the existing system.
Anybody else got any questions or?
No, seems pretty.
No question.
And again, we won't have any needed action tonight. It's just to kind of get you thinking along those lines, so when the impact fee comes, I will be presenting the capital facilities plan to the council on the 10th. To again, kind of get their thought processes going, letting them know that this will be coming in the next few months. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. And we'll just go right on. Item number 4 is regular business, our operations and generation update.
Okay, in case you hadn't noticed, June was a pretty warm June. In fact, on last Tuesday, I believe it was, or we set a new all-time June peak of 52.4 megawatts, which was 100 kilowatts or a tenth of a megawatt under our all-time peak. And so that's pretty early in the year to be that high. In fact, it was 12% over our previous peak for June, which was in 2021, which was also a hot June. Interestingly, the energy, I looked on the UAMPS website, the energy that we received for June is even higher than the 12%, which would tell you that the loads at night were higher than typical. I know there was a couple mornings I got up and it still said 89, so
Yep.
kind of all correlated with that. So kind of with that, our generation units ran all but one day in June. We've pre-bought gas. We needed it for load as well. It was the second highest June production by, we weren't too far. 2021 was the highest June we've had. So the one really good thing to point out for our generators is Jake and Tyler did work hard over the off season and did some work on cleaning some of the catalysts and those kind of things. And actually our heat rate, which is equivalent to miles per gallon basically, is lower, which is a good thing in this case. So it's the amount of gas per unit of energy by quite a bit. So like in the 10% range. So we're actually able to run longer with the same amount of gas than we had historically. So that's been a really nice, pleasant surprise this year.
So is this maintenance that they were doing that was different than what they normally do, or on an accelerated schedule, or something now they're
No,
gonna?
we've learned a few things as we've met with other utilities that they have a users group, they call it. And so they go and everybody with similar units get together and talk, and a lot of it was just kind of cleaning, making sure all the valves are adjusted, nothing, big and monumental, but enough that it made a significant difference in.
So something maybe to be repeated.
Yes, definitely. So that's been good. The units have been running really well. We have a small oil leak on one, but they're just monitoring that. It's gonna be pretty, even though it's a small leak, it'll be pretty major effort to, basically it's replacing the pan gasket. So you got that big giant engine, and so we're hoping that we can just catch it during the run season and deal with that in the fall when we have more time. Otherwise, they said it'll be about a week to 10-day project to do it, so.
Can't call Jiffy Lube and have them come.
No, unfortunately. Well, we can call Wheeler, but yeah, so other than that, the units have been running really well. They're been running from about 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon to about midnight is what their basic schedule is now. Partly that's where our load peaks and then our solar drops off, and so they've ended up shifting their run period a little bit later in the day. So, and they're both doing a great job, and they alternate back and forth and are doing well. Speaking of the Grapevine sub, this is again done in conjunction with the Grapevine Trailhead project that's going on up there. You've probably seen the other side of this wall. Nothing too exciting in the pictures. This is just they were doing the final compaction before they brought the road base in. Just some of the drainage on the outside. And then they're starting to bring road base, switchgear basement. That's that same hill, looking from the opposite direction, but they've got it, started the landscaping. And this is the south side. And they're getting set up to put up the gates. I haven't been up there this week. The gates may be there, or they may have poured these approaches and around the gates.
We drove by today and they were it looked like they were putting up some landscaping in front on the
Yes,
Washington Parkway side, but I didn't see whether there was any gate work being done. I couldn't see from the road.
Yeah, you'd have to get up there quite a ways to see this.
Well, it's beautiful now because there's no substation there.
Hey, no. Well, when it's 115 degrees next week, you all will think it's beautiful. No, this is Grapevine. I got the wrong name for that. That goes a long ways back, but anyway. So the progress is good. I think the whole project with the whole trailhead and everything's supposed to be done end of July, or not September, August. So they're getting close. I think they're doing asphalt next week, if I remember right. And then once they get the asphalt done and these concrete approaches, then our crews will go up, and there's some cabling work they've got to do to get a couple spans of overhead out of there. So, but it'll be nice. Right now, it'll be a big block wall with road base in the middle. But that's part of, the cost, and this will be impact fee qualified funds can help pay for that. A little report on the AMI. I actually signed the AMI contract yesterday. So I'm hoping that we'll get the official kickoff meeting on site with Aclara, hopefully scheduled in the next few days, at least have the schedule for the meeting. So that took a bit of effort to get through that process of back and forth, and they've been good to work with. It just takes time on those big documents. So some of the areas where the crews have worked this last month, they've replaced some poles down on Staley Hill that were not in very good shape. And we've got a new street light on the corner of Main Street and Parkway, Jeremy. Should be operating tonight. The street light on the Parkway and Main Street, it should be, they energized that today, so it should be operational tonight. So on the solar side of things, in June, we had 5 applications, which was interesting. 4 of those 5 were either adding batteries or adding panels to existing systems. So 4 of the 5 had existing solar systems on, and they augmented them in some way.
So it's really slowed down Because
It
it
has
was
the last
averaging
couple
6
months.
to 8 to 9, and now it's,
Yeah, I mean, from September to December, we were 10 or more. So, and I don't know if it's people getting saturated, or if it's just that time of year. The tax year motivates people to try to get tax credits. So that's why typically
end of year is busy.
the end of the year picks up, and I think that's one of the reasons why is I'm sure the salesmen say, hey, if you do this now, you can get a credit on your taxes, kind of thing, so. Other good news is, and I don't want you to get used to it, but we'll take advantage of it while we can. Our wholesale power cost this in May, which is the one we have, our most recent bill, was just a little over 5.5 cents, which is quite a contrast to when we had 18.5 cents back in December of 22. So the power costs up till this point in this year have been surprisingly low, to be quite honest. Like today, even during over the peak hours, is less than $50, which is very unusual for this time of year and this level of temperatures. California did declare some transmission restrictions starting, I want to say tomorrow or Thursday for the next 10 days. I suspect that'll force prices up a bit. Again, and we've done some things also to stabilize and to keep our wholesale costs down. But so you can see this purple graph down here, it's the lowest it's been. Actually, to be honest, I went back through since I've been here. So we'll take it while it's available.
So how does that equate to us buying, well, we've already bought the gas for the turbines, right? So that we got to spend anyhow.
Yep.
So
And if we had perfect hindsight, we would have been cheaper to buy it off the market than to run.
but who
but
knew?
we've already
Because
bought
it was terrible last year.
Exactly. So that's the fun challenge, is to try to outguess that. So we've tried to focus on securing resources that at least are predictable at a tolerable rate, that we have a known going in, so we're not subject as much to the volatility. But it was fortuitous for us to have unusually high June and low prices, so it will help. And so what that does is translates to the PCA. We're down to about 1/4 cent, which is again one of the lowest it's been. If you look really close, you can see the purple down in here. So, and then on we've already talked about this, but the peak load, you can see it's substantially higher than any other June. And I'm suspecting we're gonna be up in here in July, come Sunday or Monday. And last but not least, the average usage for our residential customers was up over last year, about the same as the previous 3 years from that, so. So again, as much as I would love the pricing to stay in that range, I really don't think it's gonna be a long-term
Yeah.
thing. It's driven by having more hydro available, and there's a lot of natural gas right now.
Yeah, gas is as cheap as we've seen it in a while.
So those, I think, are the two, and so. I think that's the main day-to-day stuff. Outage-wise, we've had a good spell there, and hopefully it'll continue. You know, when temperatures get up like this, you always find the weak points in the system here and there, so, you know, might have a transformer that decides to not work, or a fuse go out or something like that, but, and we've talked about the shut-offs potentials. We have a call every week with Rocky Mountain. They've indicated we're in a heightened level where they're keeping an eye on it, but they didn't see any immediate system problems. So there was a fire up near Central that was a little concerning. It wasn't that far from the line. So keep your fingers crossed that people with fireworks don't shoot them where they shouldn't. If there's no questions on that, we'll shift over to the UAMP side of things. The June meetings were the APP, in conjunction with the APPA National Conference. We had good presentations. Sometimes it's hard to translate. A lot of times they have the bigger utilities like LADWP and some of those present. It's hard to translate some of the things they're doing down to a much smaller utility, but it's always good information to see what's out there and what people are doing. I believe this was sent out with your packet on the PacifiCorp transmission rate increase that they've, well, as of June 1st, they will have implemented it. And so what they're seeking, or they put all these costs into a formula rate, is what they call it. I don't know all the details of what goes into that magic formula, and the rate comes out the bottom. At the end of each year, they call it a true up. And so for last fiscal year for UAMPS, they're asking for a 30% increase. And for the current fiscal year, they're asking for a 45% increase. So obviously UAMPS is very concerned about that. So between UAMPS, Deseret G&T, and UMPA, which is a similar muni joint action agency, they're working, and I would suspect they'll file file basically I don't know if protest is the right term, but push back on that. Hopefully they'll be successful. The impact to Washington for this upcoming fiscal year would be about $350,000 for that rate increase for the 45% one. And so this document that UAMPS set out kind of outlines some of the UAMPS process. You know, we put in a 2% increase, which is typical. In the last 9 years, it's went from 1% to 12%. I think the thing that's most concerning, PacifiCorp had some wildfires, I think it was in 2020, up in the Oregon area, and they've included some of those costs, or a lot of those costs, in this rate case. And that'll be one area that they'll push back on and say that's, shouldn't be in our rate case in Utah. So they are working diligently to at least reduce that. I'm sure we'll have some form of increase, but certainly the 45% and 30% is pretty extreme. So,
do I understand it correct? This is just like the rent that they charge to use their power lines?
yeah. Yeah, so like we're part of the Nebo project there in Payson. And so this is the fee they charge to move that power to us. It's they call it a postage stamp type rate. So it doesn't matter if we get charged the same for the Vail project, that's 15 miles from us, as Payson, that's 300 miles from us.
Yeah, so it would seem logical, unless they can show some type of capital expenditure to the tune, 30 and 40% are huge.
There's a lot of capital in this as well, and I think
But it would have to be new capital.
Yes, and there's like a 400-mile transmission line from Wyoming to central Utah. Is one that's in here. I was trying to, had a conference call on this this morning, so some of it blends of what's where. Yeah, so this third-party liability claims that's mentioned in here is the Oregon wildfire. And from information they've been able to review, about half of the increase is due to that single item. So obviously, that's one of the areas they'll focus on, basically saying that's inappropriate to be in that particular rate. So hopefully we'll be successful.
Now, if that is successful, did it say somewhere in there, and I read it right, that they'll reimburse that amount, or they'll force Pacific Corps to reimburse that amount back to
Correct.
the members? Okay, that's
Correct.
what I thought.
That would
Because that's invoiced in July, correct?
This new rate would go effect as of
June
June
bills
1st, I think it is.
invoiced in July.
Okay,
and so their fiscal year is different than UAMPS, which is different than the cities, so it can
okay,
be kind of fun to keep it. But yes, and that's part of the true up in the end. If it's not correct, then they would be required to reimburse that to us. And so UAMPS is working, again, with the other joint action agencies to fight that, to question it, and those kind of things, so that's a piece of not so good news that, like I say, it's, it's not gonna necessarily break us, but it's not gonna help us either. It's a pretty substantial amount of money that kind of drops out of the sky. We continue to work with UAMPS. We've exchanged some emails on looking at securing more resources from now till 2030, 2031, when we hope some of the UAMPS projects will come online. Our current 5-year contract will run out. I think it's the end of March of 27, so we need to fill that hole in between there, so we're working on that. And we'll keep you posted as we get more information. Since the prices are down right now, it seemed like it might be a good opportunity or time to ask and say, what are some of these future prices? So we'll probably send it out and they'll get us some pricing, and then we can decide whether to move forward or to wait and hope for a better price. Let's see, on the Central St. George project, again, this document was sent with the packet. Currently, this JOA and ITS, it's joint operating agreement and integrated transmission system agreements that UAMPS has with Pacific Corps. They want to kind of start over on those agreements and combine them into one. I'm hoping that there'll be some opportunities that we can get some favorable conditions. I don't think they can compel us to change, but with the right negotiations, we're hoping that we can improve that arrangement that we have with Rocky Mountain, basically from Central down to the St. George sub, which is up by the T-Bone Mesa. The BES exemption, which will tie into whether or not we loop the 138 system, it's been submitted to WEC, which is Western Electric Coordinating Council. The clock started on that in April, so hopefully by fall they'll give us an indication whether that's a go or no go. It just affects some of the planning and associated costs. Nebo project's running really well as well. That's the one by Payson. Right now, pretty much from runs between 100 megawatts to 140 a day, and they shape it based on load. Veo, it does well. It's Achilles heel is we're subject to the Kern River, how often, and their compressing schedule. So if they're not compressing gas, we don't get anything out of Vale. It's been running about 600 to 700 kilowatts most days, most hours. The solar projects are going well. I believe 1B, if it's not at completion or COD, it's really close. This last month, we actually had favorable conditions because we got test energy when they were first starting up the plant, so it was at a reduced rate. So we were able to take advantage of that. So, and then once they reached the COD, the completion, then it goes to the rate that was in the power purchase agreement. So there were a few things that helped keep that May cost down. Some of them won't be there as we move forward, but again, we'll take it while we can. Let's see. See if I can find the resource project in here. They continue to work on the geothermal. We thought we had a pretty good line on one, but there was some wrenches that came up on that, and so we'll keep you apprised on that when we actually get a real project with a term sheet that we can present. On the natural gas study, there's a site in Idaho and one kind of by Holden that they've submitted study to Rocky Mountain. It could take anywhere from early 25 to late 25 to get the results of those studies back. So it takes a long time to go through all these study processes, and the results of those studies will tell you how much basically you have to spend to interconnect to at those locations. So you really can't complete your project study until you know what those interconnection costs will be. Fremont Solar is probably the next one that could come online, but they ran into a few, even though the developer has their interconnection agreement, there could be some capacity issues on some transmission lines, so they're evaluating what those limits are. Again, I wish I had more definitive information and we could bring something and say, here's a project, this is what we should do, and here's the cost. So there's a lot of moving pieces out there going, from geothermal to gas. There was a Uinta wind study. We elected not to pursue that. One, wind seems even more intermittent than solar. And if we do more wind, I would just probably stay in the Horse Butte project that we're currently in and do the upgrade or expansion there. That's also on the table. I think that's the main thing from UAMPS. The meetings this month are just going to be online, which is good, then I don't have to travel. And then the ones in August will be up in Heber. I think you all have received that. So far, we've got 3 of you that were planning on going to that. If the other 2 are able, we'd love to have you. I know there's conflicts with school and some of that good stuff. So, but we're looking forward to that conference. It should be really good. So that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Anybody got any questions?
No questions here.
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions, concerns?
Just have a good holiday.
Yeah. Get ready for higher bills,
Yeah.
because we've been lucky.
Yeah. All right, if there's anybody that wants to motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
And I think that was Mark that did the first and Dick
Yep.
that did the second. Todd, do you want to start us on a vote?
Yep, Spriggs, aye.
Mark,
Hauser, aye.
Dick,
Saunders, aye.
and Dinsmore, aye. All righty, until we see you in August on the 6th. So next meeting will be August 6th. So thank you everyone for joining us and hope you all have a fantastic and safe holiday.
Thanks, everyone.
You as well. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, guys.